All right, we will get started for the sake of time. Thank you and welcome everyone again to this State of the College address. And I am Yoon Pak. I am Department Head of Education Policy, Organization, and Leadership, and will serve as your moderator this morning. And of course, our Dean Anderson doesn't need any introduction, but for those of you who are new, it is important to mention that he is the Edward William and Jane Marr Gutskill Professor of Education and Affiliate Professor of History, African American Studies, and Law here at the University of Illinois. Recently, in 2021, Dr. Anderson was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, one of the oldest honor societies in the nation. He was sworn into the Board of Trustees at Stillman College, his alma mater, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and inducted into the Stillman College Educator Hall of Fame. And that was both in 2020. Also the same year, he was awarded the Presidential Citation from the American Educational Research Association, its highest award. And in 2012, Dr. Anderson was selected as a fellow for outstanding research by AERA and received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Association of Colleges for Teacher Education. Dr. Anderson was also elected to the National Academy of Education in 2008. His scholarship focuses on the history of U.S. education and African American education. His pioneering book, The Education of Blacks in the South, 1860 to 1935, won the American Educational Research Association's Outstanding Book Award in 1990 and still stands today as a foundational text. In addition to having served as expert witness on various and key court cases at the federal and state levels, he's also appeared on numerous PBS documentaries over the years. But through it all, he has remained a dear colleague, friend, mentor, and advisor across nearly 3 generations of students at the University of Illinois and abroad. He has been unwavering and humble at the same time, and he's very student-centric in the ways that he takes into account the needs of undergraduate through postgraduate levels. He's also incredibly student responsive. And as an example of that is a course that he developed on race and cultural diversity in US society, which was born from student activism and advocacy from the 1990s, and in particular from our Latinx students. And those of you on this meeting today probably partook of that course as an undergraduate and also served as a teaching assistant in that time. But not only from the 1990s, but extending from his time in the 1960s, he has always served in the interests of students, and his servant leadership has been felt throughout all these years. And so, lovingly being referred to as Doc, I am going to hand it over to you now, Doc, to provide your State of the College.
Well, thank you, Professor Park. There was no need for all of that. It just points out what we already know, that he's been around here for a long time in order to accomplish these things. At any rate, thank you very much. I will have a few remarks about the state of the college. And then Professor Park, there are a number of questions that have been submitted, so I want to have time to address those, and I'm sure there will be questions that will come in as this session is underway. I want to say up front that this is my last State of the College address. As some of you know, I'm retiring this coming June. And I would say, as Richard Nixon said when he lost the election to Kennedy in 1960, he said, "You won't have me to kick around anymore." But that would be a misrepresentation of what has been a wonderful journey here at Illinois. 5 years as a student and 48 years as a member of the faculty. It's been my honor and my privilege to be here. And one thing I learned from early on, that this is a college that is comprehensive and with breadth and depth And it would take a long time to recognize all of the talent and all the achievements that come with such a broad and comprehensive college of education. So I'd like to say up front, thanks to all of the people, all of the faculty, staff, and students who make this such a wonderful place. I know that Professional Day is coming up soon, so I want to take a special moment to say thank you to the college's staff. It is something that I've learned to appreciate at each level. I think as a faculty member, you kind of show up and you ask for this or that, and you don't have a full appreciation of the critical role that staff play in a college like this. As department head, it changes. You realize that you can't make it without that talent, without that expertise, without that support. And as dean, well, you're kind of in their arms. They support you. They keep you going. They make things possible that otherwise would not be. So thank you to our staff for such an outstanding performance. On behalf of the faculty, I'd like to say we truly appreciate your contributions to the college. I also want to say thank you to our students and to our faculty who make this such a great place. I want to start with what I see as the strength of the college and where we stand. I think over the past decade or so, decade and a half, we've done a good job of building strengths across the board, of keeping this a very comprehensive college with strengths in so many areas. And that shows up in terms of the quality of the faculty that we have, the research that they do, the research grants that they bring in, but it also shows up in our national reputation. We have strong college with departments that are ranked in the top 10 and most of them in the top 20. And one thing I learned to appreciate that, even though I don't put too much stock in rankings, I never did, but when I had to do the rankings myself as department head, I realized that you go through a document that has hundreds and hundreds of colleges of education, certainly over 500. And so when we are regarded by our peers as being number 5 or number 6 or number 10 in the nation, it's from a very large pool of colleges. And so I don't take that recognition lightly. It's something that we've worked hard, we've earned, and it's really good to know that we recognize across the nation and across the world as being strong in so many areas in the College of Education. So that is something I think we can feel good about going forward. We never rest on our laurels. We always looking to become stronger and to improve areas, even in areas where we near the top. So, and we will continue to do that. I think we've done a good job recently, and going forward, I expect us to be an even stronger college across so many different units within the college. I also want to talk about the strength of our college from not only our rankings, but our enrollments. We have strong enrollments in our online programs. I think we are one of the top in the country in terms of enrollments, but certainly we are one of the tops in terms of the quality of our online programs. U.S. News and World Report ranks us as number 3 in the nation. Frankly, I think we're number 1, but we'll take number 3 for now. And it's important because one of the important features of higher education will be the growing, the expansion of online certificates, online degrees. Online space is critical. And so the quality of what we do in our online programs and the enrollments that we have, even in our certificate programs, our enrollment in our master's degree programs, our enrollment in our doctoral education programs are not just solid, they're very strong. And we look forward to continuing to own much of the online space nationally. Undergraduates, we have a very strong, stable undergraduate enrollment. And and our graduates are doing extremely well. It's important to us that 99.8% of them are employed in the state of Illinois, and we have a 66% persistence rate for our students in the field, and that's higher than the state's average, higher than the national average. And so it's great that we have the quality of teacher education programs where we prepare professionals who are passionate about what they do and will remain in the field. As I think everyone knows, that one of the big problems contributing to the teacher shortage is the turnover rate that happens across the nation and within the state. But our graduates persist in the field and continue to make important contributions. I also want to talk about some things that are expanding that enrollment and stabilizing it. A new program that has been mandated by the state is Early Childhood Consortium, and our commitment to increase the work that we do in early childhood education. We have done the work and of developing the curriculum and the courses and hiring staff. We're ready to go as soon as the state releases the scholarship for this program. It will be an important expansion for undergraduate enrollment and an important contributions to the work that we do to increase the quality of early childhood educators. We have committed to increasing the educators that we credential 5 years from now or 4 years from now by 85%, and I think we'll be able to accomplish that. So we look forward to that. Much of this, if not all of it, will be community college transfers coming into our college to complete their last 2 years, and that will be done mostly online. And we're prepared for that. Actually, some years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we developed an online program for teacher aides around the state. And we were ready to do most of that online with Golden Apples. As it turns out, Golden Apples was not able to get the funding for the program, but nonetheless, we are prepared curriculum-wise and structure-wise to deliver that. So we feel very confident about being able to deliver 2 years of online teaching and curriculum for community college transfers to complete their degrees in early childhood education. Also, we've done some new things, and I'd like to point those out. We now have a new degree, CS, Computer Science Plus Education, and it certainly will change STEM education in Illinois. I want to say thanks to all the faculty and our Associate Dean of Undergraduate Instruction who persisted to get this through the college, through the Faculty Senate Committee here, through the Illinois State Board of Education, and through the Illinois Board of Education, Illinois Board of Higher Education, that we now have this degree approved. And I think it's going to make a difference in terms of STEM education in Illinois. We also have approved now a licensure degree in the teaching of computer science. And as we all know, this is something that the state sorely needs. Other states are ahead of us in terms of certification in the teaching of computer science. And so we've now reached that threshold where we can offer a licensed degree in this field. That also is going to change the nature of STEM education in the state of Illinois. Other new programs that I like to emphasize, we have a program called Aide Global that is exciting. And I briefly say what it is. It's also a virtual curriculum that is focused on the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. It creates multicultural, multinational, global connections between UIUC, Illinois, and scholarly communities, both locally and around the world. And it's a program where we have 700 middle school students in 16 countries, 19 undergraduates, that is pre-service teachers, and 10 international students. And this is just the beginning, where we will be involved in global education of middle school students and the opportunity for our undergraduates as pre-service teachers to teach in a program like this. And many thanks, much appreciation to coordinator of international program, Allison Witt, for her work in developing this program. And it's gonna be an exciting programs going forward. I've had a discussion with campus, particularly with the provost, about this program. And so there's a lot of excitement about what the college is doing with iGlobal and in this particular space. So we look forward to what the future brings with this program. Another thing we've done, we've also appointed a coordinator of public engagement. As some of you may know, we've been very strong, probably the strongest college on campus in terms of our public engagement. And we've now solidified our investment and our commitment to public engagement. And we look forward to doing more in this area, not only in helping in terms of the college relationships to local communities, but we're not just involved in students in education and our public engagement efforts. We're involved in undergraduates and students from around the campus in this program. So we're going to do a lot more in public engagement, and we made a commitment and investment to improve our strengths in this area as well. One of the things that I certainly think about a lot and really proud of is our ability to bring in talented young people to fill the ranks of faculty in our various units. And we've been doing this for quite some time. We have an extremely talented group of young faculty, and I'm really impressed with the ability of each of our academic units to really get the top talent. I've been able to observe the searches and see the individuals who were in the top 3 on their lists, and that capacity to attract the top talent to this College of Education. The future is bright, and just this past year, I think we added about 10 new scholars to the college in this area. And I'm very confident that this college is going to be even stronger in the future as our assistant professors and early career professors move through the ranks, become senior faculty, full professors, and take on leadership positions, not just in the college, but across the campus. Even as I speak, there are a number of our professors who play important roles at the campus level, but started out as assistant professors in our college. I do want to make sure that I get to your questions, but I also want to say thanks to our alums that support the college, that are not only friends of the college, but in many cases contribute to our margins of excellence and make a difference for what happens to our young people. The way in which they give back and the way in which they remember how they were supported when they came through, and their willingness to support those who are coming behind them is something that that brings a lot of pride, not only to me, but to the college as a whole. So thanks to the alums, all you do for the college. Keep representing. Your graduates of one of the great colleges of education in the world. People everywhere know our quality. They know who we are. They look to us for leadership. They look to us for research and innovation. And so be proud that you are an alum. I'm twice alum. I've always been proud of that. And to know that I'm an alum of a very, very great college. So thanks to you for all your support. I think I may abbreviate my original remarks at this point and leave a lot of time to answer questions that have been submitted. There have been questions submitted already that I'm quite willing to address, and there may be questions that are coming through the chat room even as I speak. So I think I'll go back to Professor Pop to see what questions were submitted and begin to address those.
Great, thank you, Dean Anderson. And yes, we'll be going through pre-submitted questions for Dr. Anderson to answer, but as you also ask questions in the chat, we will be also fielding them best to our abilities at this moment. Okay, so if you could speak a little bit about, do you feel that the attitudes of prospective teachers are changing or adjusting due to the challenges that schools are facing?
Well, I think we've seen that teachers are going through some very important changes in their careers and trying to be professionals and professionals who are supported and appreciated for what they do. It was only maybe 3 years ago, about 3 years ago, when there were teacher strikes across the nation. And we got a chance to hear their voices. We heard teachers say that they were working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. They teach in the daytime and then they'd have night jobs just so they could support themselves. It's not something that's ideal, it's something that contributes to the shortage. We don't expect people to stay in the field when they have to hold 2 jobs just to make ends meet. So we need to do a lot more in terms of supporting them. But it's not only the economic side of it, and I often think about a high school graduate that comes into our college of education, graduate and become a teacher, and then has an enormous loan to pay off, and the salary that he or she gets as a teacher makes it difficult, and it becomes a yoke around the neck for a very long time. And often they leave the field to take more lucrative occupations in order to pay off those loans. But I think the other thing is it's not just economics, not just salary, it's also the environment, the conditions. And teachers are now facing a whole new set of laws and regulations that are being passed. I think about the teachers in the field of civics and social studies and history that are going to be facing laws that ban the teaching of X, Y, or Z. We all just heard about the state of Florida having denied something like 46% of its math textbooks because they didn't like the content, or they didn't like what was being emphasized. We actually, I think, certainly I would prefer an environment where there's academic freedom for teachers, there's room for open inquiry, there's room to deal with even controversial issues without feel that you're being punished. I was dismayed by an executive order in Virginia that created a tip line for people to call in, kind of snitch on their teachers if they didn't like what they were doing. This is not going to be a good environment for teachers, and it will contribute to the shortage, because the kind of people that come to our college, very bright, very talented, professional people, will only tolerate so much of that kind of chill, that kind of repression, of freedoms that they want to enjoy in the classroom. And so I think we have to take that in consideration going forward, and that we have some work to do, and we need to support our teachers. We need to have a lot of continuing in-service training as our teachers graduate from here and go into their fields. We have that already, but we need to expand that. Stay connected with them, find out what they're going through and how we might help them to persist. But it's far from being ideal, but we can work on this. And we don't have this problem in Illinois right now, but when you look around the nation, from Virginia to Florida to Texas to other places, teachers are now facing various kinds of scrutiny, various kinds of bans, various kinds of laws that not only lead to dismissal, but could lead to enforcement against them. And I've been keeping up with this. I mean, a principal in Texas, or a teacher in Southwest Missouri, or teach elsewhere who've been fired from their jobs because someone snitched on them and said that they were allegedly doing X, Y, or Z. We do not want a state or nation where teachers are under such scrutiny and feel that that they, and it's like being in an authoritarian state where, and that we need to keep an eye on and do whatever we can to help our teachers.
Great, thank you. If you could speak to some community relations and involvements that have taken place, and also where future directions can also be made in that.
This is something that we've been doing for a while. We want to strengthen, we want to improve. As you know, we have a center in the college called the Center for the Study of Education in Small Urban Communities. And one of its responsibility, one of the things that it has been doing over the years is try to work with local school districts, which would include not only Champaign and Urbana, but Rantoul as well, to see what we can do to support the district, support the teachers as well. Now, we are actually with public engagement programs and with the center are looking forward to strengthening those relationships, meeting with local superintendents to see what we can do better, and ways in which we can improve the support that comes from the college. We have a lot of faculty who are engaged in community engagement programs in the community. I know because they've been approved by the college. In some cases, they've applied for support from the campus and they've received that support. And so we do have those programs, and I'm very impressed with the way in which our faculty are engaged with the community in various kinds of programs. And it's something that I value. I mean, before I became dean, back when I was department head for about 5 years, I ran an after-school program for middle schoolers. And it's just amazing what you can do. It's amazing the impact on young people when they have something that they can go to. They were so excited about being in the College of Education, being on campus, being able to be exposed to all of the, not just facilities and technologies, but to the faculty and staff that we have. So this is something that that I know from experience is a great benefit for the community.
Great, thank you. I'm going to couple one that came in previously to the question that was posed in the chat. But what are the efforts being done to increase the number of African-American students in the undergraduate programs? That's part one. And then the second one is as Black teachers who want to teach, and potentially, as you mentioned, facing backlash, what are the ways that you would give advice, or in terms of how to retain Black teachers who are already there?
Yeah, let me start with the first one because it's something that we were focused in on very, very heavily before the pandemic, and now we will start up again. We were having meetings with officials from Chicago public school system about developing a pipeline of their graduates to the College of Education that would eventually return to Chicago public schools. And we had discussions with officials in the system, one of them being an alum of our college. And we had gotten to the point where we were going to have a summer institute called Teach Chicago, where we would bring in, they had identified in that system, you know, a large number of young people who were ninth graders who had already expressed aspiration to become teachers. And so we were going to tap into that population, bring them to our campus for a Summit Institute, because I believe, and we believe this strongly, that the sooner we can get them acclimated to our college and an understanding of the profession and what is really entailed in becoming a teacher, the sooner we can get them to commit to our college. And so the Teach Chicago program was never started because of the pandemic, but we're now in a position where we can look at that again. And it's not just Teach Chicago. We're looking at at other kinds of recruitment with the local school districts and throughout the state, where we might increase numbers and proportion of African-American students who are interested in becoming teachers. And so I think the key thing is to catch them early on at the 9th grade level, begin to work with them, beginning in the Summer Institute. But once we do a Summer Institute, we can also follow up with other kinds of programs, particularly online. Other thing I've learned too is that a number of the students who are in the Golden Apples programs, the underrepresented minority students, and I learned in discussion with them that a very large number of them don't even complete the application because many of them are first generation and they get to a point where it may be a block or stoppage and then they just let it go. But we also want to reach out to them and being able to assist them to complete the program and not only to complete the application, but to enter our college as prospective teachers. So there are ways that we can improve that. We are improving and we will continue to do so. The second part of that question was about African-American teachers under the current climate, current environment. I think that all teachers, and I think we have to fight back against unnecessary scrutiny, unnecessary infringement on open inquiry, on academic freedom, on free speech. It is something that should not be left to teachers alone. It is something that we all should fight back against, because if teachers feel a chill, or somehow punishment or dismissal, or that they have to worry when they walk into their classroom that somebody might call a tip line and report that they were being divisive or that they were teaching things that made people uncomfortable. If that's the environment in which teachers will have to work, then you're going to get a much greater teacher shortage, because no one wants to have to work and learn in those kinds of environments. So we have to fight against those kinds of environments, and that would be help not only to African-American teachers, will be helpful to all teachers.
Great, thank you. And there is one general question that asks, how can we help? And then there's another specific question that asks, how can I better support the College of Education as an alum?
Well, I think there are a lot of ways to support as an alum. Alums get to represent the College of Education, and alums are an important constituency of the university. The university pays keen attention to the feelings and the concerns of its alumni base. So in general, being part of the Alumni Association and being able to speak collectively as alums is something that is significant. I think sometimes individuals might feel, there's a single voice, and I can express concerns or particular disposition, and it goes nowhere. Actually, as part of an alumni base, it's one of the most important constituency of the leaders of the university. So I would first say, use your alumni base to communicate to the university concerns, ideas, things that you think that we ought to be doing. One. Two, as an alum, one thing that I've always done is to give back, even though, no matter how small, because when we contribute to the margins of excellence, it can make a world of difference in the lives of individuals. We have students who are first generation students who may reach a point, say a student teaching and face having to pay a fee of $800 or $1,000. And somehow, if they get a scholarship to offset what is quite a burden to many first generation students who come from families like I did, where it'd be difficult to find an $800 surplus to pay for this or that. And so the more that we are able to contribute to those things that create these margins of excellence Students are appreciative. They're able to complete programs that they otherwise would not be able to complete. We have enough research to know that as students get to the 4th and 5th year, finance is often the reason where they don't graduate or they don't complete. So anything that we can do is something I've been doing and will continue to do as an alum, even after my tenure as dean, is to make whatever contributions I can make to give back. I know what it was like being a student here, and I know how appreciative I was to get support. And that is something that I will intend to continue as an individual, but I also want to ask for commitment for our alumni base as a whole. Whatever contributions you can make and however you can make them, it may be a financial contribution, or it may be simply representation of the college, or it may be support morally. Support your college in whichever way you can, and that's going to make a difference for the young people who are here now.
Great, thank you. There's also, okay, so another question that's come in. As you stated earlier, there might not be much support in schools and districts. So how can community support African-American, Black, culturally responsive teachers, especially when our students are in dire need of Black teacher support? Some schools or districts might only be willing to hire Black teachers if there are higher percentages of Black students enrolled, and biases and evaluations which may hinder Black teachers from staying in the field.
Well, I think irrespective of enrollment and irrespective of demographics in a community, I think all of our young people are better served when they have a teaching force that looks like the America they intend to lead, and what they can learn about preparation for life and for leadership. Where you grow up today may have very little to do as to where you end up being a leader. And it could be in a very different community within the United States, or as you know, many of our graduates will be leading on a global stage. And that's what I like about a program like iGlobal, that as they come through, you get accustomed to meeting, engaging, and leading in a context that's multinational, and includes people from all backgrounds. And so we actually need teachers from different backgrounds, teachers from different cultures, from different ethnic groups, in all of our schools across the nation. Now that's difficult because when we look at the pool and we look at who's actually enrolled and what the graduates are likely to be going forward, it's not going to be easy in this specific case to employ an African-American teacher. They're going to be scarce because of the enrollments across the state and across the country. But that just means that we have to redouble our efforts. Going back to an earlier question, what can we do to get more students from different backgrounds, in this case, African-American students, into our teacher education programs? We just have to redouble that. And what that means in part is having the kind of scholarships that make a commitment to teaching very attractive. And one of the things I like about the Early Childhood Consortium that has been developed, and the state has passed legislation for this, but as part of that, they will be offering scholarships to community college transfers to complete the last 2 years. When you look at the scholarship itself, we don't have anything like it, and we've never had anything like it. It's a scholarship that will pay for tuition. It's a scholarship that will pay for room and board. It's a scholarship that will pay for books, will pay for travel. And if you happen to incur a debt during your community college tenure, and you can't get your transcript to have them transferred to a place like this, it also pays off the debt so that you can transfer. What that does, it will make it attractive to a lot of young people, because even if you can get a scholarship to cover tuition in a place like Champaign, I mean, other places, room and board can still be a prohibiting factor because it's so expensive, and other kinds of expenses that come with fees and so forth. And so redoubling our efforts, and I've had these discussions at the state level. I had these discussions with senators and others that if we want to decrease the shortage, and we also want to increase the diversity of our teaching force, we're going to need those kinds of scholarships that are part and parcel of the Early Childhood Consortium program. So you say to a young person, if you come to our College of Education, we have scholarships that will cover your tuition, cover your room and board, cover your books, and travel. And what we're saying is, when you look at the 99.8% of our graduates are employed in the state of Illinois, we're really saying, you know, our record shows that you're going to be a teacher in the state of Illinois. Our record also shows that 66% of you are going to persist in the field. And for what you will do for the state and for all the young minds that you will impact, this scholarship is worthy of your investment. And I think a lot of things we can't control about the field. We can't control salaries. As you know, the state of Illinois passed a law increasing the floor to $46,000 across the state. That we can't control. But if we get support at the state level, if we get support from donors, if we get support to scholarships, we can decrease the cost of preparation in a way that it makes the field attractive and get more people and more people from different backgrounds into the field.
Okay. There is a question that is more internally focused, but wanting an update on the racial equity focus from last year.
Meaning our own enrollments or faculty or?
It seems like in general, there wasn't anything specific addressed to it.
Well, let's just go through the enrollments from faculty to graduate students to undergraduates. And one, as a college, we are far and away, for lack of better terms, the best, not only on this campus, but nationally. We have, if we just would say underrepresented minority faculty, it's significant in our college. In most of our departments, it's going to be at a level of 35 to 40%. And you can't find that elsewhere. Not only on campus, you can't find that elsewhere in the nation. It's hard to find that. So we've done well, and we continue to do well in this area. Our graduate enrollment also reflects a diversity that is significant, and it's been stable for a very long time. Back when we created the EDD online, we wondered at the time whether the doctorate online would simply attract students who were well-positioned, well-heeled, and that somehow would be exclusive of underrepresented minority doctorate candidates. We've learned that that's not the case for us. We have a lot of diversity in that program. When we look at our master's degrees online, master tracks online, and where we're headed in terms of really owning the online space in a way that no other college does, we are able to maintain the diversity of our students even as we go into these new endeavors. So I think that's correct. At our undergraduate enrollment, we have significant enrollment of underrepresented minority students, but it's skewed. I mean, there are a lot fewer African-American students in that pool than we like. But if you look at the overall pool, it really is significant. I mean, it's somewhere like 35%, which is certainly a good number. And in fact, in many cases, people regard it as a great number. But I do know one thing, that every year we have to meet annually with our Office of Access and Diversity. And what we get from them are congratulations of having met all of our goals in terms of faculty representation, graduate student representation, and undergraduate representation. Now, the way we feel about it internally is that to meet those goals is not enough for us, because we're trying to be better and stronger. We also recognize that even when you meet goals in the aggregate, it doesn't mean that when you disaggregate for specific populations, that they also are represented in the ways that we want them to be represented. So just as an example, if we look at our faculty enrollment, which is great, our graduate student enrollment is great, even our undergraduate, and we would disaggregate just for Native American students, we would go, no, that's not what we want. We want to do much, much better in this area. Or we might disaggregate it for males in a particular underrepresented minority population and says, no, we want to do much better. So even though we're getting congratulations from the campus, and we get a lot of congratulations from across the nation. You know, when I show up at AR or other places, there's all kinds of congratulations as to our accomplishments in this area. But I'm thinking we are not where we want to be, and we're not where we're headed. And so, yes, we off to a good start. We have a great foundation, but it's our obligation and it's our commitment to look at it in a fine-grained way and improve and increase in ways that make us even better and more diverse.
Okay, thank you. I'm grouping a couple of questions together that speaks to the future vision and goals of the college. And maybe you can also speak to it from your experience on campus, but also as a historian. But what would you like to see in the college's future?
In its future, I would like to see, I mean, the college that I received such great benefit was a college with breadth and depth, comprehensive, strong in so many areas. There are places where they're noted for their strength in one area. And when I think about my own career here, I did not come to the College of Education to become a historian of American education. I actually came for a master's degree in certification to teach social studies at the high school level. And at the time, you had to take courses as part of your degree from other places in the college, foundations courses in what was then what we now call EPAL, or Educational Policy Studies, foundations courses in Ed Psych, as well as the courses that I took in secondary education. I also had to take courses in the history department. In my first semester, there were 3 courses in the history department preparing me to teach social studies at the high school level. Well, eventually what that did for me was to recognize that my passion actually was with history. And so for my PhD, I moved to a history of education program, and my career has been centered mainly around my work as a historian. But it was the kind of college where you may not arrive with the passion, but we had the breadth and depth and a comprehensive set of experiences where you could easily find your passion. And that's the kind of college that I want to make sure that that we protect, that we invest in, where young people can come in, and we could truly say that we are their dream keepers. They come in, they have dreams of being A, B, or C, and we have the resources, capacity, the commitment, and commitment is so critical for me. You know, from my own experiences, the commitment from the faculty. I mean, I came here directly out of Alabama, an undergraduate school. I had never been to the Midwest. Had never been to a place like this. I didn't know a single soul here at all. But to come into a place and just to find those faculty who were committed to my success, above and beyond what was required of them. And I'll just say this, I remember after my first year, because of the cold weather and other kinds of afflictions that I had, I left with the intention of not coming back. In fact, I went back to Alabama to work in a VISTA program for the summer. And I thought that was my escape. And I'd already made up my mind to get a job teaching high school in Alabama. But I remember getting a call from the faculty here saying, you know, how are you doing? We haven't heard from you, and we want you to know that we actually have a placement for you at Marshall High School in Chicago to do your practicum. We're looking forward. And that's when I changed my mind and said, I'll go back, because they reached out, they called, they let me know they were thinking about me, and they were planning for me, that they had essentially made a commitment to my success. That's the kind of college that I like to see that we keep and maintain.
Indeed, thank you. I think we've addressed all the questions that have come in and in the Q&A as well. Do we have any further questions? Or this is your chance, Dean Anderson. As much as we don't want this to be your last State of the College address, the floor is yours.
Well, it is. And, you know, there's, I find myself doing this and not doing this because, as you know, I teach an undergraduate class, and there's a lot of sophomores and juniors in there. And I give examples about movies and about songs, and they're just looking like that must have been in the dark ages. But there's an old rhythm and blues song I remember, and it's called "Ain't It Funny How Time Slips Away." And it is true. It is very prophetic. You know, people say, "How long have you been here on the faculty?" Whatever, and I said 48 years, and they go, "Wow." Well, actually, for me personally, it's just funny how time slips away. A lot seems like yesterday. A lot seems so near and not so distant. But that's because it's been a joyful journey, something that is exactly what I wanted to do in life. And I'm very thankful that I'm actually, I just feel that in a great university, a great college, a great department, a lot of it has to do with your commitment to young people, which is manifested in your commitment to teaching and mentoring. And one thing that I feel very thankful about is that this semester I will be teaching a class of undergraduates, my last class, and it's the way that I started, and it's the way that I'm ending. I appreciate all the research and the publications and the accolades I've got from that, but at some point that all goes on the shelf. But the people that you teach go on to do great things, and make the state and the nation and the world a better place. And you're so appreciative when they say that in some small way, you contributed to their success, to their passion, to their dreams. So that for me has been such a joyful and wonderful ride.
Well, before I get too teary-eyed here, but Dr. Dion Dans is asking what's next. We know we will still see you around in some capacity, but what is next?
Next is trying to avoid all the demands that I have already. There are people asking me to do everything from A to Z. And I got a note from one of my colleagues, former president of the ARA, Carol Lee, who was one of our distinguished lecturers. And she said to me, come on and join the group of fake retirees so we can put you to work. And I wanted to respond to say, I don't intend to be a fake retiree. But my immediate plans are to be here in Champaign and enjoy the work that lies ahead. I'll get to do a lot more in terms of reading, research, writing, which is what I enjoy as well. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think the most important thing is you ask yourself, are you ready? And yes, I'm ready.
Well, okay, I suppose we have to accept that, but
Yeah.
we do know where to find you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Dean Anderson. And
Thank you.
everyone for attending.